Hello, I am mentor Kyung-Pil, working as a money trainer on TV and YouTube. Money trainer might sound a bit unfamiliar. Most people have heard of a health trainer, but what is a money trainer? Everything in this world is the result of repetition. Managing money is the same. Just like you need to repeat exercises to build muscle, you also need training for money management. That's why I do this special job called Money Trainer, to help you strengthen your money management muscles. Money issues are something we can never separate from, right up until the day we die. In this world, there are two things that are most absolutely certain: death and taxes. And if I may add one more thing, it's spending. We have to spend money until the day we die. But sadly, even though we have to keep spending until our last day, the income we earn is very limited. Let me ask you all a question. Your salary, whose money is it? Yours. Your money, it's yours. You hear people say this a lot, but this is actually a misconception you have. Your salary is not 100% your money. It's not just given to me now. If you're really lucky, you might get paid a salary about 300 times in your entire life, and that's it. The salary I receive keeps decreasing by a month each time I get paid. So this salary you receive now isn't just meant for your present self. It's given to you to use together with yourself 5 years or even 20 years from now. Strictly speaking, it's shared funds. It's just that the management of that shared fund has been entrusted to me now. Now, everyone, let's say another fried chicken restaurant just opened in our neighborhood and it's doing really well. Isn't this what people usually call the launch hype? All day long, the owner is frying chicken, looking really excited. But after frying chicken nonstop until 10 p.m. and finishing up for the day, they need to check how much sales they made that day, how much they spent, how much profit is left, how many A sets were sold, and how many B sets were sold. Do you think they write this down in the ledger or not? What do you think? Unfortunately, they don't write it down. When I thought about why they don't write it down, it's because they think it's all their own money anyway. If there's money in the account, they just take it. And if not, they just cover it themselves. So in short, what does this mean? There's no sense of shared funds. But let's say this owner didn't open the chicken restaurant with his own money, but instead, for example, received investments of 100 million won each from 3 investors to start the business. In that case, the owner would be under the watchful eyes of the investors, closely monitoring what he's doing. Even if he's tired in the evening, do you think he would record today's sales, expenses, and profits in the ledger or not? This person does keep records. Why? Because the investors are watching closely to see how the sales, expenses, and profits are doing. But on the other hand, the owner, who thinks of it as just his own money, doesn't bother with the ledger, thinking it's all my money anyway. So if one day this chicken shop runs into trouble, he has no way of knowing why things are getting difficult, where the problem lies, or what kind of financial changes have happened recently. So what is the biggest difference between the chicken shop owner I mentioned earlier and the one I talked about later? Earlier, I told you that your salary is shared funds, right? If you think that just because you can use this money however you want, you actually do everything 100% according to your own will, then you end up just like the owner of the first chicken shop. In the end, you have to remember that there are investors watching your salary with sharp eyes, whether it's 5, 10, or 20 years from now. If you have this sense of shared funds, you will never manage your salary carelessly. What I'm showing you now is called orbiting. So what is orbiting? Artificial satellites keep orbiting the Earth. What amazes me so much about this orbiting is that even though no extra energy is supplied, it's automatic. They just keep going. Once they get into a certain orbit, they keep moving without needing any more energy. So what is similar to this? It's exactly like capital income. Once your assets reach a certain level, money keeps coming to the owner of those assets. This is also automatic. So orbiting and capital income are very much alike. Many young people dream of becoming rich. And actually, not just young people, but everyone in modern society dreams of being wealthy. A lot of people ask this question: how much do you really need to be considered rich? This is what I want to say. It's not about how much money you have. The day you become rich is when, even if you stop working and no longer have earned income, you can still live off your capital income alone. So then, what is the most important first step toward achieving capital income? Today, I will talk about the first step. How should you manage your money? Last year, the third launch of the Nuri rocket was a success. So you probably all saw the launch process on TV. While watching the launch, the commentator said something like this: for our Nuri rocket's third launch to succeed, the most important thing is the initial speed. Of course, that makes sense. To lift that extremely heavy chunk of metal and place it on a specific orbit outside the Earth's atmosphere, 1,000 kilometers above the surface, you need a powerful initial speed. At that moment, as soon as I heard those words, I realized that the start is really important for everything. So when it comes to how young people should save money and manage their finances as they enter society, I want to use the example of the Nuriho rocket's third launch. If you look at that process as it is, the moment the rocket lifts off and launches is similar to the start of your economic activity. And here the very first and most important thing is, it's the initial speed that's important. That's what they said. So how can you define initial speed? I like to put it this way. The rocket breaking the sound barrier has to be done within 100 seconds. Like that, reaching your initial capital of 100 million won is the most important thing. That's why I recently published a book titled Let's Just Save 100 Million Won. As soon as I released this book, many people asked, so mentor, if I just have 100 million won, is that all I need? Is everything finished once I save up exactly 100 million won? And this is my answer to the question. Yes, it ends there. Really? Is that true? But I have 100 million won. No, what's important isn't that you have 100 million won, but whether you've saved that 100 million won with your own hands. What I mean is, I'm not saying that having 100 million won will solve all your problems, but if you maintain the attitude that allows you to save up 100 million won yourself, then you will never fail. In the past, there was a book called The Morning Person. If you wake up early in the morning, you'll succeed. But that's not it. It's that when you look at successful people, they all tend to wake up early in the morning. That's something related to attitude. It's not that having 100 million won means you've succeeded, but rather, someone who maintains the attitude necessary to save 100 million won with their own hands will never fail financially. So by when should you break through this initial capital of 100 million won? I would say within 7 years. Even for those whose salaries are quite limited and small, I want to emphasize that you need to maintain the attitude that allows you to save 100 million won within 7 years. Why is this important? Imagine right in front of your eyes. There's someone in the 20s and 30s standing in front of you who has managed to save up 100 million won. Just picture it for a moment. Someone who has already saved up 100 million won is standing right there. Do you think their face would be handsome, or do you think they'd look unattractive? Oh, the looks don't really matter, but why do you ask? I'm sorry, just joking. What kind of young person do you think that is? If you went to that young person's house and looked at their room, would you see leftover fast food from last night lying around? Or would the room be neatly organized? Do you think that young person is deeply into drinking, smoking, gaming, or nightlife? Or do you think that's not the case? A lot of people ask me, mentor, how should I manage my money? How many bank accounts should I have? How should I divide them? And what should I do with them? Once you save 100 million won, everything else falls into place. Anyone who saves 100 million won will know how to manage money. If you have the focus to save 100 million won, will that person have money left to waste? I started my career in the 1990s, and my first monthly salary was 1.55 million won. Out of that, I saved 1.24 million won. After saving 1.24 million won, I had 310,000 won left. Of course, in today's value, that 310,000 won wouldn't be the same. In today's terms, it would probably be around 600,000 or 700,000 won. But the important thing is this. The reason I was able to focus so much on accumulating capital is because in this world, there are only two types of people: those who save first and spend what's left. And those who spend first, and if there's anything left, maybe think about saving it. There are only these two types. I'm here today because I chose the first one. Simply saving money isn't the secret to success. But if in your youth, you maintain a strong determination like, I'm going to save about 100 million won within 7 years, then money management will naturally follow. That's the point I really want to emphasize to all of you. And there's something else I absolutely want to tell you all today. This is a column I wrote for Monthly Shindonghwa on January 1st, 2021. On the very first day of the new year, I addressed the entire nation and said the following. For the new year, Don't worry about the risk of losses when investing. The loss from not investing will be even greater. You must invest in stocks. That's what I said. As you may remember, 2021 was the year when stock prices rose the most in history, both in the United States and in our country. On January 1st, I told you to invest in stocks, but what I want to tell you today is the exact opposite message. Do not invest in stocks. Let me say this again, and I especially want the young people here to listen carefully. Do not invest in stocks. So the person who predicted that stocks would skyrocket in 2021 and told you to invest on January 1st is now telling you not to invest in stocks? Does that mean he expects a major correction in the stock market coming up? No, that's not it. I don't know. How could I know? There's no way I could know. Then how did I get it right back then? I just happened to say it, and it turned out to be right by sheer luck. The economy is impossible to predict, everyone. So even if I tell you not to do it, you can think, go ahead and say whatever you want. I have my own plans, and that's fine. Do as you wish. But the reason I'm telling some people not to do it right now is for those who come here and say, I've been diligently saving in fixed deposits. But lately, people around me keep talking about how much they made with NVIDIA, how much with Alteogen, how much with EcoPro-BM, and so on. Hearing these stories makes me feel anxious. I feel like I'm the only one being left behind. What I'm saying is, don't jump in out of fear just because of that feeling. If you're someone who needs to ask me to decide, you shouldn't be investing in stocks, that's for sure. The reason I'm saying this is because a significant number of people in their 20s and 30s wake up at 3 a.m. Why do they wake up at 3 a.m.? To check the US stock market. There are also people who don't even watch the US market, yet still wake up at 3 a.m. What's up with that? To watch European soccer, some people even have European soccer on while trading US stocks. And after all that, these young people, exhausted, go to work, and by 9 a.m. they head to the restroom again to check the Korean market. Even if they're tired of it, they go back to check again. This cycle continues late into the evening. And at night, they have to keep up with the flood of news. And just when it's time to go to bed at home, the US stock market naturally starts up again. Can I really grow in my job, in what I do at work, with that kind of attitude? Now, let's talk about the world's 5 richest people. All 5 of them are stock rich. So you might think you have to invest in stocks. But these people didn't become wealthy by simply using stocks as a means of financial investment. What do they all have in common? They are people who worked 100 hours a week. Would you work 100 hours a week just for overtime pay? You couldn't do that unless you truly loved what you do. They were so passionate about their work, so crazy about it, that their work grew, eventually became a company. And then they acquired stocks. This is how they became stock rich. Among these people, is there anyone who became rich simply by investing in stocks as a form of financial investment? Many people say, isn't that Warren Buffett? But even Warren Buffett became wealthy because of the growth of his company, Berkshire Hathaway. So what is the key point here? The common trait among these people is that they succeeded in what they were doing. Becoming rich just because the stocks I bought went up? That will never happen. People treat financial investment like it's a money hack. But I'm going to be honest, that kind of thought is completely wrong. Real financial stability doesn't come from shortcuts or buzzwords. It comes from understanding your money and actually putting in the work. So money hack means changing the outcome without spending time, without making an effort, and without sweating. If you have children, would you teach them a skill that changes results without sweating, without effort, and without spending time? I won't teach them. Becoming rich because the stocks went up? When you actually meet wealthy people, you might think they were also pretty good at financial investments. But there is no one who became rich just by being good at financial techniques. That's why you need to have the right attitude towards money. There's a book called The One Thing. It was published 10 years ago and became a huge bestseller worldwide. Of course, it was translated into Korean and became a bestseller here as well. It's still widely read today. So what is this book about? If you focus on one core value, everything else will take care of itself. So what have I told you today? Of course, things like how to manage your bank accounts, what kind of mindset you should have, which methods to use, and what percentage you should save are all important for managing your money well. But I want to say that if you focus on this one core value, let me try to save 100 million won on my own within 7 years, then everything else will naturally fall into place. It's like in bowling, where you use a single ball to, what do you call it when you knock down all 10 pins? A strike. So what do you need to focus on to get a strike? You have to focus on the first spin. If you can just hit that first spin, what happens if you hit it? It doesn't mean you'll always get a strike. If you hit the first pin, is it possible that only about 3 pins fall down? Does that ever happen? That's not the case. Even if you don't get a strike, if you hit the first pin, at least 6 or 7 pins will fall. So what should you focus on? For example, if you hear a rumor in 10 years that I've become wealthy, how did mentor Kyung-Pil become rich? Did you do well in investing in stocks? Did you make a good investment in Bitcoins? That's not it. It's because the work he does succeeded that he became wealthy. It's a very simple message. Just save up 100 million won. I keep overspending and it's a big concern. How can I solve the problem of overspending? I get a lot of these kinds of questions. Today, I'm going to be straightforward with you all. People who overspend compared to their income. What do you think is the reason? I think it's exactly this. It means that you're not finding happiness in your daily life. Everyone, think about it carefully. If you look around, there are quite a few people who drive cars that are way too expensive for their income, have hobbies that are too costly for what they earn, or travel abroad too frequently compared to their income. If they can't find happiness in their daily lives, then that problem can't be solved. In my view, in order to feel happiness in your daily life, you need to have a growth plan in the work you do. That's the only way to resolve it. To restore happiness in your everyday life, I urge you to create a program for personal growth. If you do that, overspending will naturally disappear. With that, I hope that all of you will put into practice what I shared today for the sake of your future. I will end here. Thank you.